It opens doors when you share your story. Wesley just took Madison over to his dad's house so that they could build a gingerbread house, and the boys are sleeping. So I thought this would be a really good time to go over the boys' IEP and the results of that, and just talk about like what's happening with them. So we went to the meeting just not knowing anything, and we went through everything, and they read over the reports. They had done assessments on both of the boys. They each did like 3 hours of different assessments in group settings and by themselves, and just playing with toys and stuff, so they got to know them. And then I also took these super long questionnaires and just all these little tests about them and what they do at home and their personality, and I tried to give them the best view that I had of them, and I tried to show that, you know, to the school district, because I wanted them to know the boys completely. That way they can give them the right program and the right you know, the right plan for them. So when we went into the meeting, they started doing the reports, and I just started opening up about, you know, who they are and the issues they have, and also the strengths that they have. And we went over each boy separately, and then they started giving, you know, some thoughts, and it just turned into what I didn't think it was going to turn into, kind of just a group session with these, surprisingly, they were really nice people. And I was with them for 4 hours. So I know we got to talk about, you know, the boys mostly, but I really got to know them too, and like their thoughts. And there was even a parent that was in the meeting who's like a parent representative from the school district, and her son has autism. And I was just like picking her brain, and it was a really nice discussion on their needs and their sensory issues. And so they did all the reports, and at the end of Lincoln's report, they told us that according to them and their assessments, that Lincoln does have autism. And I'm already gonna cry. And in the meeting, I started to cry, and the lady who was also there, she was kind of like, she was very compassionate towards the boys, because on their report, you know, we put that they were foster care to adoption, and that, you know, their bio mom did meth and, you know, some different drugs while she was pregnant. And so these boys just had a rough start in life, and so they didn't have a fighting chance, you know what I mean? Somebody took their lives away from them because they were too selfish to stop doing, you know, the drugs and all the stuff that they did. Well, they were supposed to be protecting the baby that was inside of them, and they chose not to do that. So the lady that was there, she was real, you know, she had compassion for the boys. She was tearing up at the table, and then I was tearing up at the table, and, you know, it was a special moment. You know, I had done research, and from the signs and the things that we've seen from the boys and all the research that I've done, I actually had a gut feeling that, you know, they might have autism. But I didn't want to be the parent that was trying to label my kids, you know, saying, oh, my kid has autism. I didn't want to put that on them, because that's like a lifelong thing. And so when they said autism, honestly, my first thing was like a sigh of relief. And I know that sounds weird, but when you're trying to figure out what it is that your boys have, or when you just know that something is wrong with them and you can't pinpoint what it is, but you know that there's something, and you know, then somebody like a professional says, you know, who's done these assessments, and they say that they have autism, it honestly was a sigh of relief, because it's like, finally, it's not that they have autism, because I didn't want him to have autism. That's obviously, I do not want that for my kids, but to know what they have so that I know what, so that I can go and, you know, get the resources and, you know, better their lives, and how to cope with it, and how to manage, you know, just their little brains and the way they think, and how to help them. Like, this helps me to, you know, give them the best life that I can give them, because their brains think differently than we do. And I don't know anything about autism, and I don't know any kids with autism. This is a brand new thing for me. It was like a second of relief, and then the next thought is, how sad. How sad that my boys have autism. This is something that they'll have to, you know, live with their whole lives. And as I start to, you know, understand more about autism, from what I read, there's high functioning autism, where you can even look at a person and not even know that they have autism. And so, or then there's a severe autism, you know, where it's nonverbal. And so, I mean, from my research, I know, you know, the different varieties and how far, like, if you say a kid has autism, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean one thing. Each kid is different, and there's so many, you know, there's so many different variables. And even my boys, they're completely different. So so back to the meeting, so we got through with Lincoln, and they ended up giving him, because he is now when the school district, because he is now has the, I guess, label of autism, he is in the skills class now, which is 5 hours, 5 days a week. And he also gets a bus transportation to and from the school, because he's a runner. I mean, he has no sense of safety, and so they decided to do that to help me out. So it'd be easier to bring him to and from the school. And I also have, you know, I have Madison and my niece and nephew that I watch, and so this is like really a huge help for me. As far as scheduling and all that with the bus transportation. So I was really happy about that. And so they went over the program with us, and it literally sounds so amazing. They're gonna start with goals that are real simple for Lincoln, and they know that he has behavioral issues where, you know, he hits his head and bangs his head on the ground a lot when he's mad and frustrated, and they know all that. And so they're gonna work with him. And, you know, they don't talk right now. They have recently been saying a lot of words, like mimicking words, and we are so excited about that. It's like, it's a huge relief to know they can at least mimic our words right now at 3. They just started that. So so I'm hoping they pick up on language, and man, that'll be a huge help. But at first they're going to, because the communication it's just almost non-existent with both of them. So they're gonna do pictures on the wall, and they can go up and point to the different pictures and even say the different pictures. So they have different goals like that that they're gonna work on them, that are just super simple. They're gonna start, you know, real simple. And they're also going to try to, you know, fix the head banging, whereas say they have like a stop sign on the wall, so instead of, if he doesn't want it, instead of hitting himself or banging his head, which is, oh, it's so hard. But instead of doing that, then they're gonna try to get him to, you know, do a sign or even like point at the stop sign saying, no, I don't want to do that. So he can communicate to us without, you know, endangering himself and without all those other issues. So then we got to Harrison, and Harrison doesn't have many behavioral issues. He's different than Lincoln in that way. He's more of a thinker, and he can sit down and color. He can't do group settings either, like Lincoln. They said he had a really hard time. But they also told us that Harrison has autism as well, and so he'll get the same skill classes. But luckily they just started a new skill class in the same school, so they'll get to take the bus together, but the 5 hours during the day they'll be separated, which I think is going to be really good for them because they have their own like twin language that they do, and when they're separate, then they won't be able to use that language, and they can start using, you know, more of the words that we use, and we can understand them more. So that'll be really nice. And they honestly, they get too much of each other anyways because they're always with each other, so it'll be nice for them to have a break once they get used to it. I know the first couple weeks is going to be hard for them, you know, in this new atmosphere and this new, you know, all this change, because they love routine. So until we get into the routine of things, it's going to be hard for them. Even though this is all new, it's just so new and overwhelming and scary for us. I left that meeting just with a smile on my face, because those women that were in there, it was like a table of like 5 or 6 of us, and they were giving me apps to use and different ideas and advice, and you know, they gave me their cards to call them later. It's just, man, it was awesome. It was like such a support system, and I just knew that, you know, they were taking my boys individually, and you know, they were going to try to meet their needs and try to really help them to grow and to learn. And I'm so blessed to have, you know, a school district that cares about my babies. And so they start in January after the winter break. And I can't wait to vlog about it and show you their progress. And I just, you know, some people might think that I'm sharing too much, or that it's even weird. It feels weird to get in front of the camera and just like cry to a camera right now. But I want to share my story. Here I go crying again. I want to share my story because, you know, I put a Facebook post out too, and just from that Facebook post, I had people messaging me, and you know, it opens doors when you share your story. It creates this atmosphere of community and help. And you know, I've already been watching other YouTubers that have kids with autism, and it helps me to understand it better and to also get tips and tricks on what works for them. And I hope that making this YouTube channel and this vlogging, that we can, you know, connect with other people that have, you know, kids with autism, and that we can you know, just create this support in the community, and also open doors in the community for these kids and more resources for them. And so I hope you guys will go along the journey with us and see the progress and things that they make in the future. And I'm really excited.